Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm Rusty Fender without David E. Cosmo. David is vacationing this week and next week north of the border in Canada. So we wish Dave and Leona well. And we will carry on here on Electric City Television as usual. Joining me today is recurring guest Stephen Perillo. Stephen runs a combination of Making a Difference Ministries and, of course, the Christians concerts and ministries, part of that. And good to see you once again. Without your guitar, Stephen.
Sorry, no guitar.
The perfect day to celebrate. David's not here, and it's a summer weekend, and
well, next time I'll bring my antique guitar so you get to see what a nice 1960 guitar, customized guitar looks like.
Absolutely. Love to see that as well. Tell us about the ministries now, since you were last on this program, Stephen.
We've been expanding. We are now down into Louisiana, Georgia, Texas, and Florida. And we have affiliates down there that are running what we're doing up here. So it's kind of interesting how it's grown to different states, and more people are getting aware of what we're doing through the music. And pastors are like saying, this is amazing, they want to jump on board. It's breaking those walls that are keeping everybody away.
This is ECTV that did this for you. You were nothing before you came on this program, Stephen. No offense, but you and Gail doing such a wonderful, you owe everything to this station, to this county.
I do.
It's true. Look at you, you're expanding. Next will be international.
Well, no better there yet.
Oh, yeah. You got to walk before you can run, right?
But
give us the history of Making a Ministries, Stephen.
Actually, July 9th, we started in 2009, and it was kind of a toss of what we were going to end up doing, and my wife
said... productive 9 years.
Yes, we've grown a lot. We started with three bands and one coffee house, ended up with right now, I think there's 22 active coffee houses from Delaware to New York, and down the different areas I mentioned, Louisiana, all those areas are starting to build up down there. Louisiana has 4 right now that are active, and Florida has 2, Texas has 5, and Georgia is up and running. I'm not sure if they got one yet, but we're in the process of working with them. That's great,
because the South is not exactly a coffee house area.
They're not.
That is really between a Boston and like a Baltimore, Maryland, mainly a New York City thing is the coffee houses, you know, the beatniks of the early 1960s. Right. So it's like, it's nice that you could move not only a thing, but an entire idea south of the border.
I think what's happening is churches are starting to see they have to working together. You know, they were so used to working against each other.
Absolutely.
It's like they have to bring it back together.
Absolutely.
You know, those walls that came up need to come down.
Just look at the glut of Catholic churches now with the consolidation several years back. You know, the parish I belong to has changed names a couple of times already, and if you don't, you know, if you don't consolidate and if you don't lend a helping hand to your neighbor, it's like you're not going to be able to lend that helping hand because you're not going to be in business anymore.
Yep. Methodist churches doing the same thing. They're consolidating. You know, we get, as a pastor, I get to go into different denominations and preach and play. And meeting new people is kind of interesting because, I'll tell you a cute story. I was playing up in Freeland, and I'm coming through the door of this church, and it's a beautiful, modern church. Now, like I'm saying modern now. And this lady came up to my chin. She was an older lady. She was 77 years old. She says to me, "That doesn't come in my church." And she's pointing at my guitar. I'm like, okay, what happened?
Traditionalist, probably. Oh, yeah, big time.
I said to her, I said, well, your pastor hired me to come in, and I said, I do music with my sermons, and I talk. And I said, I'll tell you what, if you don't like it, come up to me afterward, and I won't come back. I said, but if you do like it, I'll come back. During the whole service, I'm watching her, and she's straight-faced. She is not blinking or smiling. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I'm in trouble. After the service, the first person who comes walking up to the front of the church was her.
Wasn't that great?
And she said...
Positive comment?
Positive. She said, when are you coming back? She said, I'm so sorry, you know. And I'm like, look, I understand. You know, you're used to traditional music. And I said, when you hear a guitar coming in, maybe it's not something you're new with. So she loved it. She loved what we do with the old traditional hymns. We put them into like a country swagger move. Peace in the Valleys, Circle Being Broken. When they hear those songs in a different style, it gives them an uplifted spirit.
Well, they are the traditional songs too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the Nearer My God to These, the I Believes, the Ave Marias. They transcend the religious boundaries.
Yep, Old Rugged Cross. That's one of the biggest ones everybody wants to hear.
Absolutely.
And we were doing a song in the garden, and the lady says, "Oh, I can't wait! I love that's my favorite song." Now I'm thinking to myself, you know it as a
you're
traditional.
thinking of, exactly. I was going to say, you're thinking of the other In the Garden, not
Right.
the Yes.
And so I start playing, and I do it with a bluegrass sound, and we do a banjo, mandolin, guitar, and the lady afterwards says, "I love it." She said, "I never expected that." And that's where I think we have to open eyes up, because people are they got blinders on when it comes to, like, music and church and what they can do in a church.
It's amazing. I'll take you back. I did the Saturday Night Live with the Oldie Show, Shadow Steel, on 98.5 KRZ for 27 years. And one of the biggest songs that I would play usually every week, requested, was the Lord's Prayer, done by Sister Janet Mead. From Adelaide, Australia, from the Adelaide sister, the
I
sister
know
of
very
Nuncio.
well.
Exactly. Still alive in her 80s. And she brought, in 1974, that was a top 10 record, by the way, A&M Records in this country, Herb Alpert's label, signed her on because he heard it as an international label, the Lord's Prayer, with the rock beat, Our Father who art in heaven.
Yep.
And people were mortified, not only in the church, but sacrilegious to do this. But she was the founder and brought to Adelaide, Australia, the folk mass, the folk rock mass, and had 3 or 4 albums out after that internationally. And although that wasn't one of her favorite songs, again, now you look back and what a classic move that was. But people were protesting and picketing at the time. It takes a while for these things to settle into the psyche of anybody. That's the problem. Time's not on your side with a lot of these. So I think from the last 9 years, you covered most of that.
And I would say we broke a lot of walls down, but there's still a lot more. We've got a lot more to come through. Music festivals are now popping up. We have a bunch we'll talk about. We did one yesterday down in Parsons. Parsons area in Wilkes-Barre is one of the non-active areas, very secluded. They have several churches here and here, but they don't work together. And here we are. We had all Christian music playing from 1 o'clock to 7:30, and it was supposed to rain. So we're like gambling. Okay, no rain. We're gonna play outside. And my band was on last, and we were right to the song before my last song, and it started raining.
Really?
Like, okay, we're done. That's okay.
You're over the hump with that deal. That was a success.
And we brought artists in from near Harrisburg, Ole, Pennsylvania. We were going to have Ben Horowitz. He's from Saukett, New York. Eddie Mann's from Philadelphia. And it's just amazing how the artist comes in, for free. They don't charge or anything. And we just do a lot of outreach that way. And it helps us to break those walls. And it happened. And it's funny, I have to tell you, we're sitting there and we're playing the music, and then suddenly I see a police officer comes pulling in. Somebody reported the noise. And I'm like, I'm walking to the cop, and the cop looks at me and goes, "Never mind." You know what it was.
There's a problem with every crowd. But you had at least 25 good years of establishing the Christian Contemporary Artists, CCC, Contemporary Christian Radio, is a huge force the past 10, 15 years. Look at the crossover artists that it spawned: Petra, Stryper, Amy Grant.
Yep.
Unbelievable. These were all Christian artists who couldn't get onto the top 40 with a gun. It's like, and now they're part of the top 40, the rock revival renaissance. So it's wonderful that you carry on the tradition. How reticent are the people, or how active are the people to hire you on in the South? You kind of have to do a really good selling point for that?
When we first got down in Louisiana, the pastor that contacted me, he said to me, we talked on the phone for several...
Well, that's a good thing when they contact you, first of all. That's a good thing.
He contacted me, and we were on the phone several times, and then he said, "I have people willing to jump on board here." But he said, "I need... focus how to do it." So we were talking, we Skyped back and forth. I said, "This is what you need to do. This is what you have to, follow these procedures," because every band that comes into our ministry has to have a focus that we need to know that it's from the heart, not we're looking for making themselves glorified or trying to claim money through it. Because like I said, these guys all do everything for free. And he was surprised when he put it out there that he's looking for Christian artists to play in coffee houses and ministries. How many people showed up? They were like calling them on the phone.
Really?
So, now he's
Great
got
response,
a bank down there.
huh?
Great response down there. Texas was a huge one too. They have a lot of Christian bands down there.
That?
Florida, kind of a struggle,
See, I would
Greg.
think not, too, being that that's the retirement community for the
That's
United
it.
States. I wouldn't believe that.
But see, that's
Doesn't make-
retirement. You
Yeah.
got like the Christian bases. You can see all the young people that are playing.
You're right. You need progressive, I guess, too.
Right.
Not
They're
retirement.
looking traditional. They're looking traditional music.
I see.
So, I mean, but we do have traditional people. We have a group called Paul and Mary Good, who actually, they're a duet, husband and wife, and they play all the traditional music. But they play with kind of a twist, too. They play mandolin, guitar, banjo. He sings it around. But it's all the older style music. When you're talking about the Catholic churches, I played for the Diocese of Scranton since I was 16 years old in the churches as contemporary groups. They call folk groups at that time.
Right.
Sister Mary Claire is from the Scranton area. They have a convent up off of 92. And I would meet with her. We would set up programs and do church services all over the place. It's kind of funny, like you're saying, Catholic Church had a lot of that in it already. They didn't have drums, but they had the guitars. But we would meet, there was 40 guitar players that would meet on a Sunday morning, and we would disperse on different churches. And that's how it worked for about 10 years.
That's great.
So
Great.
I played for many Bishop Timlin services many times.
Certainly a long, steep history. Now, you have some things coming up here
Yes.
for 2018, and we'll start with, I guess, with June 23rd. That'll be the next one, of course, in Covington Townships here at the Praise in the Park in Daleville.
Right.
Have you done this particular venue before?
Actually,
Stephen?
we did it last year. The pastor called us and said, your name was given to me, and we're looking to expand our program and how we can get things going. And we brought in three bands. Bill Hunt, myself, and Yvonne Hartman was there, the young lady. And they loved it so much, people responded and they asked us to come back. So we got a music fest again on the park up there. So we're going to be doing that.
And before, let's just mention some of the CDs you have
Sure.
here, too, on the table. Of course, my dear friend from Channel
Mike.
16, the anchor for the longest time, Mike Lewis, and he went into contemporary Christian.
He does a lot of storytime Christian music as well. Mike is interesting because he's coming in August. We're doing Harvey's Lake
Yes.
had concerts under the
Yes.
stars. Mike, we're going to come out and do a concert under the stars. They haven't done one in 15 years.
Is he still in Nashville?
He's in Nashville.
I haven't spoken to him or Facebooked him in a while, but
Yep.
I thought he was still in Nashville.
He's in Nashville.
That's
He's
great.
releasing a brand new CD.
Really?
And that's going to be a CD release party at that day. So
That's
it's
great.
on
What a
August 4th.
great tie-in.
Yes.
And the other, Steve?
Yvonne Hartman, she's a singer-songwriter. She's actually living in Ole, Pennsylvania, travels in Nashville quite a bit. Was down there last week. She's got a dynamic sound. She's a very good performer as well because she relates to the audience. She brings them in. She doesn't just sing two of them. She gets them active. And that's what you look for in an artist because you don't want to just perform. You want to get people to
You look
engage.
for interactivity and
Right.
everything anymore.
got it.
Games with anything you have. Absolutely. Good wing.
Eddie Mann is the next one. Eddie is the winner of 2015 and 16 Christian Artist of the Year. He's from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Eddie's done many concerts for us. He'll be coming up a couple concerts as well. Ben Horowitz is the next gentleman. He is from Pawtucket, New York. He is actually Stephen Curtis Chapman was his guitar player.
How about that?
So
This is a big name?
He played for Stephen for many
name.
years and went on his own, and now he's doing very well. A young upcoming group is Cedar Roots. These guys are amazing. We have them yesterday, and people were just blown away by them. They just came out of college, and there's a four-piece group now. There's a violin person that's missing on the cover, but they add so much life to their music. They inspire a lot of the older people as well as the younger people. My son, for example, came to hear them 2 months ago, and he bought a CD from them, and he said, "Dad, they are fantastic. They have such a great sound." And that's what you look for, the sound that's going to attract people as well as the interacting part of it. And they engage as well. They're young, so the younger people can relate to them as well.
Harvey's Lake you mentioned too, and
Yes.
Gail, your wife, of course, is now a collector of memorabilia from Harvey's
She
Lake,
loves
a
Harvey's Lake.
very historic place with sandy beach, and of
Yep.
course the dance hall, and of course Hanson's amusement park there
Right.
when I was a kid. But what a great area! The railroad, the Lehigh Valley Railroad, used to run passenger service until 1961, right up along 309 to the back mountain. past the corners where you veer off to go to Misericordia in that area. And of course, you know, that with the waning of train service back then, the automobile,
Right.
of course, took over back in the early 1960s, late 1950s. But still such an incredible place. We had dances there back in the early 1990s when, you know, Joe Nardone and the All-Stars revived
Absolutely.
the dance hall and all that. And such a great place. I mean, collecting memorabilia from Harvey's Lake will never go
Right.
out of style.
Yeah, it's great. We're actually working with Harvey's Lake. They asked our ministry to come on board as, you know, as a director for
great?
them. It's interesting that organizations like the Lake, Hillside Farms, all those places, they're calling us and saying, "Listen, we want you to join us," you know, because
See,
we
it's
see what you're
perfect.
doing.
There's another progressive organization because they've done some work for the lands
Right.
at Hillside Farm. So it's
Absolutely.
great to be into that entire back mountain area from the Trucksville, Shavertown area, right to Knoxon, Harvey's Lake, Kunkel, that whole area. It's very historic, Steve.
One of the things that last year was so unique is we did a music fest out there, and the money that came in through the arts and everything else that day went to Knoxon Elementary School. Their goal was to raise little fish and then release them a year later. They just released a fish last month, and the kids were thrilled. And we bought tanks, we did all that for them to make that. And that's what we do. You know, everything that we get in goes right back out. We do not, we don't make profit on our ministry. We don't want to make profit. We look at ways that how could we better the community and getting kids involved. And that was one of the teachers said, that'd be a great way. We can feed them, watch them grow, talk about them, let the different style of fish. And they did trout. This year they did trout. So they released the trout into the Harvey's Lake this year.
That's great. Before we get back to the sheet,
Yep.
first, let's do this a couple of times. How can folks get in touch with you?
They can call me at 570-899-2264, or they can email me at stephen@unitybymusic.org, or my
Facebook.
website is www.unitybymusic.org.
And Facebook.
And Facebook,
Facebook
under
as well.
Steve Perillo.
Absolutely. The Beaumont Free Methodist Church is coming up.
Beaumont's coming up on June 23rd. The artists that we're talking about come in, featuring Cedar Roots they're gonna be there as well.
It's a double header that day.
Yes.
Morning and the afternoon.
Morning and afternoon.
That's great.
Yep. We have St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Mountaintop. Cedar Roots is booked for them on the 24th. They're back to back. One of the things that we found out that when artists get involved, churches hear them and they call us up and say, we want to book them. And we try to keep it, if they're coming from a far distance, to try to give them something day after each other. So it kind of helps them with gas and tolls and stuff like
Well,
that.
a full congregation is certainly contagious.
Yes.
So you want to play off that for
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely. Then up in Lackawanna Avenue in Oliphant, Beyond Reason is another group that we have, and they'll be playing there. It's a Rescue and Restore Church. It's an old theater, if I'm not mistaken. And it's kind of, they revised the whole church into the theater, and so they'll be playing there. Truth Cafe is actually Dave's church, New Life Community. Cedar Roots is going to be featured there on July 13th. And then the third part of the Beaumont Church, because they do a mini concert series, Mike Lewis is going to be there. He's coming in on the weekend of August 3rd because he'll be doing the concert on August 4th. So we kind of try to keep him
In
same way.
conjunction with his CD release.
Yep. So August 4th is a big one, which we're pushing is Harvey's Lake. Is going to be a music fest starting at 9:45 in the morning. There's going to be bands playing up until 4:15. Then at 6:45, we're going to do a concert under the stars. And we're going to have a local country duet called Broken Road Duo. They play from Niagara Falls down to Nashville. They're very good. They're going to open for Mike. Mike is going to do a CD release, sign CDs, take pictures. That's going to be an all-day event. Also, that afternoon, we are going to have a horseshoe contest. The ministry is promoting a horseshoe tournament. And if anybody's interested, they can, I said, call me on my phone or email me or go to Facebook. It's a $20 entry fee donation. It's going to basically what we get and it goes right back out. Trophy, each person that wins, the top team will win a trophy each, and they win $50 each. And then what we're going to do is invite them back next year to bring the trophy back. They give the trophy back to us, and they're going to regain the trophy, and they don't pay an entry fee next year. So it's kind of a fun type thing like that. And the balance of money that goes in is going to go back to the youth.
That's
so
great.
we're going to do it there.
I bet you when you started out, Steve, that you're a little nervous on how this thing could go. Either way.
You know, it was a scary thought because when we started out, we had talked to many pastors, and I had success with some, and then some we had basically slammed the door. You know, like we were told by one church, and won't give names, but don't come here. We don't want to hear about it. We have our own church going. We don't want to get involved. About a year and a half later, that pastor came up to me at a meeting and handed me a check for $100. And he said, we've been watching and hearing what you're doing. And he said, you're not just preaching God, you're living it, and you're telling people how to come in.
Feel like $1 million
Absolutely.
After somebody ignores you and says we don't need anything progressive, and it's kind of like we don't want this new wave.
It was tough because, you know, you're looking at how we can open these doors. And, you know, churches are afraid that if they get involved, they're going to leave their church and go to another church. One of the things that pastors are understanding and liking is that I don't have a church. Even though I'm a pastor and I preach at different churches, we don't have a church, and we're open to preaching at any church. And that allows pastors to feel comfortable with us because they know we're not going to try to take their congregation away from them. And opening these doors allow them to interact a lot more by doing that.
Across the street from where I live in Duryea is the Brick Methodist Church. 300-year-old cemetery and all that. The Foots, the Marcys, who founded that particular area of the Luzerne-Lackawanna County line, are buried there. And I was invited, with my background in music, over to a thing they had a couple of years ago. And Becky and Diane run the Brick Methodist Church. She's the mom is the organist, the daughter does all that. And this is a congregation. I think that the youngest person is about 85 years old.
Okay.
And they brought in a rock group that did, I'm thinking, boy, this is going to be a freight train wreck on this deal. And you know what? They had one of the biggest collection plates for the deal, not that that's a part of it,
right,
and the biggest turnout of folks who hadn't been to the church as a regular Sunday morning service in probably 5 or 6 years.
Nice.
So you never know. You can't generalize. There's a place I say, now this is going to fail. An average congregation, age of 90 years old, with a rock group coming on a Sunday morning. This is not going to end well, is what you're going to think.
Right.
And they surprised and turned the table and beat the odds on that deal. So you
Absolutely.
never know, Steve.
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about Cedar Roots as a group, that I can use a great example. Older people see young kids coming in. They see a fiddle, they see a banjo, they see a mandolin, and they think to themselves, this isn't go for us. Yesterday, they sold out of their CDs.
That's amazing.
And it was just great because the older people really connected with them. Even though it was upbeat music, it was still something they could be able to connect with the music. You know, they did This Little Light of Mine. They do Jesus Loves Me, but they do it with such. Now, Jesus Loves Me has been a kid song since we were kids.
Yeah.
They made it into a bluegrass country song.
I see.
So it's like persons think, I know that song, but then when they hear it in a different venue, in a different light, they thought, wow, they could take this and make it into that.
You know, it's all about the arrangement. Look at Buddy Holly bringing violins in the 1950s. That was unheard of unless you're going to do Prokofiev or Beethoven. It's like he orchestrated that. It's like you never know until you try it. And some things do fail.
Right.
And some things go over with incredible velocity.
One of the things that we found out is when we started the ministry, coffee houses were a big thing. It was a new concept. People were reaching out to us saying, we want to start. We had 9 coffee houses up and running. We are down, starting next year, we're going to be down to 1. But it's interesting, the churches don't want the coffee house, but they want the music. So we started this thing called mini concert series, where they do a 4-time concert throughout the year. Less stress on the church, less people volunteering. And that's what happens when they do a coffee house. A lot of times, if more people get involved, it lasts. If it's the same person doing it over and over, it does burn out, unfortunately. But this mini concert series works out well because it gets families to get involved. Like the one church, St. Paul's, they have, it's called Adopt a Concert, where a family will run that concert for that day. So it's not one person doing it. So it was a great concept. It was a new way of doing it.
You got a really good track record. What's next, Steve? to grow the word bigger and to grow the concept bigger in different geographic areas, I would think?
I think we're trying to do that. We're trying to reach out for the youth. We're working with youth as well.
The youth, yeah.
We're connecting with national artists as well. We had great opportunities with Third Day. Third Day was here at the Kirby Center in October. We had Casting Crowns here. Unfortunately, Third Day is a great group, but they're breaking up. And they've been together numerous years, I think over 15 years, and their final concerts and run is this August, and that's it for them. We are looking to bring the Newsboys back. They come up, they're going to promote a new movie as well. We're looking to bring Matthew West back. He's also a huge artist. It's wonderful to see something happen incredible. It's like there's a gentleman called Jordan Felice. Jordan was 19 years old and contacted our ministry. We worked with him and got him concerts and everything. Jordan is now touring with Matthew West. He is now top of the line. Take Me to the River, if you ever want to listen to that song. Jordan wrote that song and he promoted it, and I listened to it and said, that's a hit. We got to get you hooked up.
Classic spiritual.
Yeah.
Done everybody from the Talking Heads all
Right.
the way back to the, yeah, absolutely.
And he was here with Matthew West in September. We did a concert with him. We brought Matthew in. And when Jordan came out, his look cracked me up, because when I knew Jordan, it was a young kid, clean cut, short hair. And here he comes on stage, and it's like Johnny Depp. He looked like it with the big rim hat and the beard. I'm like, you changed your look. He says, well, I kind of like trying to reach the younger audience.
Hey, the look sells.
It does, I tell you.
Brings it in.
Everybody said, that looks like Johnny, and right away. But as soon as they seen that look, it drew them in, and everybody liked his music. So it was kind of interesting. We had great opportunities to help other people out, like Christabel Braden. She's another artist that is actually touring all over. And it's great to see young people come up to that step and allowing us to be a stepping stone for them. And the ministry has helped out in many ways doing that.
It's always good to have you on. Bring the guitar next time.
I will definitely do that.
And thanks to your wife, Gail, as well, for all the help here. Stephen Perillo, he is with the Making a Difference Ministries, of course, the Christian Concerts and Ministries programs here, recurring guest on Electric City Television. Thank you so much once again for being with us, and have a great summer, enjoyable summer too with the ministries.
You too. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you very much. Mark McGlory, thank you so much. Technical guru here at ECTV and all the other programs on this channel. David D. Cosmo back in a couple of weeks. Rusty Fender thanking you for watching. ECTV Live will see you next week right here on Electric City Television.